Hello and welcome to this edition of Homeland Security Intelligence Edition. Any and all intelligence agencies eavesdrop. Last year, it was widely publicised that the US had monitored German Chancellor Merkel's cellular phone and overheard all of her conversations. The German weekly Der Spiegel recently ran a story according to which, after Merkel's anger had subsided, it turns out the BND, Germany's own intelligence agency, conducted wiretaps on Hilary Clinton and current Secretary of State Kerry when they visited Germany earlier this summer. In response to a question by Der Spiegel's correspondent, the authorities replied, much to everyone's dismay, that this wiretap was actually a mistake, as the intended objective was none other than Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan. So how do you wiretap a cellular phone? And indeed, who is actually doing this? This special iHLS report will shed light on this hot and rather sensitive topic. Now, we used to imagine secret agents stealthily infiltrating some minister's lavish house where they would install a transmitter inside the phone, which would then direct any conversation to a nearby surveillance van. Nowadays, things are slightly different. Cellular wiretapping is what is happening. The method used is much more technological and far less exciting. Take, for example, the case of the wiretapping of Mrs. Clinton's cellular phone. As we analyse it, we may assume that she took with her at least 2 phones and used them for her own personal and perhaps professional needs. The moment she got off the plane and landed in Germany, she probably turned those cell phones on, assuming they were off during the flight. From that moment on, assuming Mrs. Clinton's mobile phones are viable in Germany, her cell phones would begin scanning radio base stations of all the German cellular networks you can pick up from the airport. Assuming the former First Lady chose T-Mobile, for instance, her cell phones will then handshake the host network, which will in turn send them all to the necessary technical data they require to be able to send and receive calls and text messages, surf the net, and so on. This handshake process, though taking no more than just a few seconds, involves transmitting a high volume of data between the host network, so in our example T-Mobile, and Mrs. Clinton's cell phones, reaching the core network all the way to the carrier's switch, whose functions are to direct all of her calls to their destinations and to manage her cell phone's mobility. But this T-Mobile switch, which is called MSC, has another covert partner somewhere in Berlin. BND officers are wearing earphones and are listening in, hanging on to every word Mrs. Clinton says into her cell phone's microphone and monitoring each text message she receives and sends, each internet site she's on, and so on. Thanks to the MSC's mobility management feature, those BND officers must have known all along where Mrs. Clinton was at very high resolutions, with a high precision of a few meters. Since cellular wiretapping and tracking are based on the number of the cellular phone one wishes to monitor, it is very hard to believe that the former First Lady's number was at all similar to that of Turkey's Prime Minister. So, wiretapping by accident is hardly an intelligent excuse. That's it for this week's Intelligence Edition, brought to you by Homeland Security. Come visit us next week for another Intelligence Edition. Until then, visit our website by clicking the link below. Bye for now.